Welcome to Healing in Progress. Hey, family, welcome back to Healing in Progress. Today, we have a very special guest and a really powerful conversation. I know for myself, and I would love to hear how you are impacted by this conversation afterwards, too. I have invited one of my favorite people to talk to. Ilona Pamplona, she is a human design coach. And on my journey through healing and giving myself grace, recovering from a life full of experiences where I haven't been the most understanding of myself and operating in alignment with myself, human design has been an incredible way for me to get a better understanding. And so when I met Ilona and I understood that she broke down human design in a more digestible way, I said, I have to have you on the podcast. I have to just have you in my life because I feel like I understand myself so much better than I did before we met. So I'm going to pass it over to Ilona so she can give you an opportunity to meet her.
Hello, thank you for that intro.
You're
And I'm so
welcome.
honored. I am so obsessed with this work. I am Ilona Pamplona. I am so many things, but I am an author, a speaker, a human design and astrology educator, a coach, all the things. And I use all these tools to help figure out, who they're being, people, bridge who people are being to who they're designed to be. Because whether it's astrology, whether it's human design, whether it's even the language we speak, sometimes who we're being is not in full integrity with the life we want or the life we know we can have.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say that you are understanding yourself so much better through human design, it just gets me so excited because that's how I feel with all of this work.
Yeah, the conversations that I normally see about human design are oftentimes like you are this, and then it's just that's you. This is how you are. This is how you operate, and it's kind of been just like my understanding of the zodiacs. Like you are a Taurus. This is how you are, how you operate, without the considerations of all the other aspects of you.
Right.
So on a very elementary fifth grade level, explain to us what human design is.
Okay, at the highest level, human design is a system that uses astrology, the chakras, the Chinese I Ching, which is a divinatory system, the Kabbalah, and as well as quantum physics. And we bring all of those things together. We use your birthday, time, and place, kind of like in astrology, and we create this chart called the body graph, which tells us how your aura or your energy interacts in the field. And so from that system, we break energies down into 4 or 5 types, depending who you're speaking to. And what this system tells us is basically, if we were computers, how our individual computer works, like
Mm-hmm.
how we're built, what parts we're built with, how our operating system is, how our logic system is in that computer, so that we can really, how I say it in the book that I wrote, Human Design Made Easy, how we manifest the life we want, right? Like, so you're a projector and I'm a manifester. We're not going to operate in the same way, but when we understand that we have this individuation, these things that make us very unique, and we learn to play with that and lean into that, we live the life we are individually supposed to live.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you for that overview.
Mm-hmm.
And as you've taught me before, human design is not necessarily for improvement, it's for alignment.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Because you were designed this way.
Yes.
Whether it's astrology or human design, we're all pulling this data that the moment you were born, you were infused with a certain specific set of characteristics, ways of being that shows up in the world. And when we're kind of in breakdown, it's typically because we're going against that core
Mm-hmm.
operating system that we were
Right.
designed with.
Right.
And so it's not like you have to make yourself better. You're amazing, though. You were built to be amazing. And when you're working against that, like I said, operating system, then you're going to have some breakdowns. You're going to have bugs that you get to fix, but not because you're not whole, but because the operating system isn't functioning.
You feel less amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So what I found is that human design has helped me understand more about my patterns, my thought processes, my actions. And I don't want by any means for anyone to think that I know what I'm talking about. But what I have found from conversations with Ilona is that I felt really affirmed in learning aspects about myself that I thought were just kind of uncommon or weird. It's given me a sense of understanding.
Yeah.
And that in itself is very healing for
Oh
me.
my gosh, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So let's talk about our aura types.
Okay.
You mentioned you're a manifester.
I am.
I'm a projector.
Yeah.
And what does that mean?
Okay, so let's go break them down aura type by aura type.
Okay.
So technically, so when I said before there are four or five, and I do this because I'm like, it depends on the person who's saying it, 70% of the population falls under an aura type, one singular aura type called the generator aura.
Okay.
However, there are two types of generators.
Mm-hmm.
There's manifesting generators and regular generators. Some people like to say that they're different, but at its core operating system, they operate the same. Why do I mean by this? Every aura type has what we call a strategy. And so there's a way, like I said, the operating system. So
Mm-hmm.
both mani gens, which I call manifesting generators,
Many gens.
and the
That's
generators,
cute.
they operate in a certain way, which means their aura is open and enveloping, and they're here to respond. So they can respond to an idea that they have. They can respond to something that comes to the world, like a opportunity, an email, a smell or a sound, right? Like they're here to respond to the world around them because their aura is open. So everything's coming to them. I always say the generator auras are here to attract, not chase.
Mm-hmm.
And when they begin to learn that they're here to respond by getting into their body and knowing when their body is saying, oh, this out of all these things that are coming to me in the quantum field, this is a yes and this is a no. And they learn to say yes to the yeses and no's to the no, they begin to align. Now, the mani gens and the gens work a little bit differently where regular generators are building upon something. So they'll be like, oh, I really like this. I can do more with this, or I can take this here. The mani gens are a little bit faster. There are shortcut finders. There are multi-potentialites. They go a little bit
Mm.
quicker, but still at the core operating, it's, is this a yes? Is this a no? And it's
In
in
the
the
body.
body, which, by the way, distinction in human design, we are taught no choices are made in your brain. They're all made in what we call your authority. And so every design has, like, every person has different authorities, an authority that helps them make the best choices. So
Yeah.
generators are either emotional generators, which means they know in the moment when their body's saying yes is a yes, but then they have to wait at least 24 hours to make sure they're emotionally clear, emotional authority.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're pure generators where they're just like, I feel it and I do it. I feel it and I do it. It's a yes and I go. It's a no and I move on. And so those are the generators. That's 70% of the human population.
That's powerful to be in the body in that way and to be listening and resonating and letting that guide your decisions.
Yes.
But the fact that human design is all around encompassing of what does it feel like in the body instead of what is the brain saying, I feel like I've always made my biggest life decisions have been made from something that feels a particular way in the body
Mm-hmm.
without all the overthought. And
Oh,
I always just thought, you're decisive, your earth sign placements everywhere.
I mean, that
but
plays a little bit, but
but understanding more of that too, because let's can we talk about projectors next?
yes,
Okay.
they're the next largest population.
Oh, are
Yeah,
we?
so it's
Okay.
70% project, I mean generators, and then 20% projectors.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about it. How do we make decisions?
So first of all, your operating system is you get to wait for an invitation. So the first thing we look at when we have an aura type, every aura type has a strategy, and your
Mm-hmm.
strategy is to wait for an invitation. What does this mean? It's because your aura is penetrating and absorbing. So what does this mean? So this means that when you're around generators, because most of the world is a generator, your aura is literally like going in. You feel everything. You know what people are feeling. You know what they're thinking. Like you really absorb the experience of the other person. Interestingly, I got certified in this thing called Genius Report, which is human design for business.
Hmm.
And the way they renamed the projector is the empathic coordinator. Because
I love that.
if we're going to put this into like a job function,
That should be my on my resume.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. The projector is like, I truly feel what's happening and I can coordinate, I can organize the most efficient way of things to
Mm-hmm.
happen from these things that I'm feeling, from what I'm absorbing in, what I'm taking in from being with you, with the other person. It's a very relational aura. It's a very like one-on-one. Like they really work best one-on-one. And so projectors actually have the most authorities, decision making. And so most people in general are an emotional authority. So you're an emotional projector, which
Okay.
means you are designed to wait to be invited to the right opportunities. And when you're invited to the right opportunities, you need at least wait a day to feel emotionally clear about making that choice rather than being impulsive and just going for it. I mean,
Like a
sometimes,
generator.
yeah, like a generator
Okay.
or someone who has the ego center, which we could talk about later, right? Like some people are designed, or even splenic. Sometimes splenic, which we'll talk about in a second, like they have this in the moment, like, oh, I got to do this thing. And so, but you're designed to like truly not have this urgency
24
in
hours.
decision making. Yeah.
So I've been operating my entire life as a generator. I've clearly been operating out of alignment with my profile type because waiting 24 hours to do anything, especially if I feel like I see the best direction, sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so interesting fact that you mentioned something really important about the exhaustion. 70% of the population that are generators, what makes them a generator is that they have the sacral center defined, kind of like in the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
And for generators, what makes them so quick to act is because their body's telling them in the moment yes or no, and because that sacral is a consistent motor. So the motor's always on being like yes, no, right? As long as they're doing the things that they're supposed to be saying yes to, right? Whereas the rest of the other three aura types, we don't have the sacral center, which means we don't have something that'll regulate us to be like, oh, this is a yes, this is a no, it's time to stop, it's time to go. So we don't know when enough's enough. So
Our motor depletes.
We don't, some of us don't even have motors. So
motors.
some of the sensors are motors, but some of us don't even have motors if you're not sacral. Some of us do, but they're not consistent. The other motors outside of the sacral, they're kind of like spurts or waves. But the generator motor is like, it's on. We could pull 3 all-nighters as long as we're doing what we want. But the non-sacrals, we're not designed to be go, go, go. And so generator auras, they are, I don't like this, that they're usually called the busy bees or the worker bees of the universe. And I don't like that, but there is something that they're designed with this energy. And so there is something about them designed to do things, to take action, to use their energy. Us non-sacrals, we weren't designed to have our value based on what we do.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because we don't have, we can't be relied on for consistent action and energy. So our gifts and our value is different. So as a projector, and we didn't talk about the signatures, but like one of the signatures for a projector, so that the way you know you're in alignment is you feel successful. Yes. Whereas generators are here to feel satisfied. But if you're not feeling successful, you might turn into bitterness. And that's probably because you're trying to be a generator or you're trying to be a manifestor. I'm just going to go for it and I'm just going to do it. And then you're going to be exhausted and no one's going to pay attention to you. And you're not going to be invited by the people that are actually going to get you to the success you want.
Burned out.
They actually say projectors that are the ones that are the most likely to experience burnout, because not only do you not have that little sacral box that's saying this is a no right now, but you also are designed for success. So if it's like, yes, it's a no right now, but we haven't reached success, so I have to keep on going. And so there's like learning how to balance giving yourself time to rest so you can have the energy to do things successfully, to create what you're here to create, to be invited by the right people so that you can have your energy used accordingly, coordinate accordingly.
Here's where I struggle, and I'll take this to therapy. So I'm a projector that's not supposed to do everything. No. I'm not the doer. Mm-mm. I'm supposed to wait until I'm invited to do things. Even though I see the clear path of how things should be done. I should allow other people to do it and not do all of it myself, because I will deplete and burn out trying to do everything. Yes. And here I was thinking that was my Capricorn moon. No. And this exactly. So I see how just knowing one system can kind of delay our growth in many different ways, because we think we're able to justify it with just one aspect.
Yes.
And I'm
so true.
And I've been wrong.
Well, I'm so glad you brought this to the conversation, because some people go, well, I don't do astrology anymore because I do human design, or I don't do human design because I have the Enneagram. And it's like, no, when you guys, like, a lot of people don't realize that every system brings a purpose. Astrology is from Greek, astrologos, astro meaning stars, logo meaning speech. It is a story of our life based on where the stars were at the moment we're born, and then the transits it keeps on taking. It's telling a story. So if we want to know, hey, what's the story right now? Oh, Mercury's in retrograde. That's why my car broke down, or that's why like my computer is not working, or that's why we had to re-record a podcast. Then we understand the story. Human design goes, how is your energy individually working in this dynamic as the cycles go on? So you are going to be like, okay, this didn't work, Ilona. I need you to come back so that we can make this work. right? And
Yeah.
so each one tells us something else. Like the Enneagram is about core motivations. Like the Myers Briggs is about like your, what is it, like talents or like geniuses or something, right? Like
Yeah.
everything has a point. So you wouldn't go to strength finders to figure out what the cycle is.
Uh-huh.
You wouldn't go to astrology to figure out, well, you could go to astrology to figure out your motivation, but that's another story. But everyone has a different purpose. And so I love that human design can bring a dimension
Mm-hmm.
that the other ones can't speak directly to.
Yeah. So let's who's next?
Who's next? Manifestors, 9% of the population.
9?
Yes.
Wow.
And so manifestors have what we call a repelling aura. So I'm always going to like recap them again. So generators open, everything's coming to them. They get to say yes or no. Projectors penetrating, absorbing, they feel everything, they coordinate and organize from there. They get to be invited. Manifestors, we have a repelling aura.
Like, get away from me.
Great question. So it's not that I'm a repelling person, but my aura goes, hey, we can't let things come in like a generator. And what that creates is that the manifestor is here to initiate, because I'm not here to be like, come on, what do I get to say yes to? I literally need to go out and do the thing. Like, it's basically, I joke that there's a coaching distinction, that if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's a manifestor aura. And it's really funny because as a manifestor, I get so many people who almost get aura envy. So I joke that my mission in life by the time I die is to make sure that no one has aura envy, because generators don't realize how special their aura is. They think they're like, oh, there's so many of
There's
us.
some 70%.
And I'm like, y'all literally are attracting, not chasing. I literally have to do it. I literally have to use my energy in spurts because I don't have consistent energy to make something happen. So there's an initiation, and also they call it to inform. So I'm also here to speak. I don't have the pressure to speak. I'm not always just blah, blah, blahing. But when I speak, it has impact because my throat is connected to a motor that's a little bit advanced. But basically, I'm here to say that what needs to get said and start what needs to get started.
Okay.
So, yeah. And so when we are aligned, we feel peace. And when we're not aligned, we feel angry.
War and peace.
War and peace. Yeah. So I try to be, sometimes people there, we talked about this the last time we got together, that there have been a lot of dictators in the world. And I'm not going to name names, but there are a lot of dictators who are manifestors. And in my opinion, it's because they were not aligned with how impactful for the good of everyone they could have been. But then we have beautiful people like Frida Kahlo and Maya Angelou, and even Adele is a manifestor, right? Which, by the way, tell me you're a manifestor without telling me you're a manifestor. Adele does this whole tour and she's like, I'm done singing. Like, she came here to initiate and she's like, I'm done. Like, I have no more energy. Like, my singing one is in a spurt. The spurt is over.
That's a manifestor trait.
Yeah. Like being like, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm complete.
We'll see. Do you change your mind?
We could, but it's also about like, when I'm done, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that decisive factor there.
It's very much like, I don't have it's like kind of like a projector. Like, when we're done energetically, we need to be done. A projector is going to be like, if I have not felt successful, I'm going to keep on going. But a manifestor is like, I'm good. I did what I needed to do. We're out.
You're at peace
yeah.
with it. Yeah.
We're at peace with it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's enlightening.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Are you an Aries?
No, I'm a Libra.
You're a Libra. Okay. But you have that Aries axis. So how does astrology tie into like that war and peace kind of feeling for the signs?
Well, it's different for every person.
Yeah.
So it's very nuanced. So this is where I'd be like, we have to look at your chart. Like, I just happen to have like cardinal signs. So what happens in human design, if you're ever looking at a chart, if you're new to this, when you pull up your chart, you're going to see this thing that looks like a map of a body with centers, like chakra centers. And then you're going to see glyphs on one side and glyphs on the other side. One side is a personality side, which is your birth chart. The other side is the design side, which is the birth chart of your soul. We didn't talk about this, but yeah. So what happens is that in human design, they say that your soul came into your body 88 days before you were born. So all of the red lines in the human design chart, those are the lines of your soul's planetary activation. And then the black lines are your birth chart activations, because there are 64 gates in human design. This is from the I Ching. And each gate is connected to or associated to a certain degree of the astrological signs. And so what happens is that you'll see 2 suns, 2 Mercuries, 2 Venuses, because there's yours and the birth chart of your soul's version. And when we combine that, we have your human design. And so when I was saying before, we were talking about the axis of Aries Libras, because What we have in human design that we don't have in astrology is the earth, because in astrology we're looking from the earth to the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
universe. Because human design is quantum, we're looking at everything that could impact it. And so the earth holds the sun. So if I'm a Libra sun, then typically the gate that's associated to your earth is the opposite sign. So I have a Libra sun, so my earth activation is an Aries
Yes.
activation.
Wow.
And so I have cardinal signs there, but that's advanced astrology.
Yeah,
But
that was deep.
yeah.
It
So
goes
there's
so
so
deep.
many things. I mean, I tell you guys, I could probably talk for days, not even hours, about how much information there is in human design.
Yeah, it's expansive.
Very.
There's
But we're talking about
we
the
don't even
101.
have right,
Yeah.
right, right.
We got the aura. Let's start with the aura types.
Yes. So the next aura type
Is
then.
the last one, is the reflectors. So they're only 1% of the human population. So when you're looking at everyone but a reflector, you're going to see some blocks in color, some blocks not in color. And then you're going to see some like little lines that are halfway and things like that. But a reflector has nothing defined. So their aura, their energy is completely open, but their auras is not open. They're actually called like a sampling aura, because since nothing is defined, when they're with other people, they're actually here for the collective. They're kind of like our global thermometers. So they're here to sample, like, oh, so if you were next to a reflector, they'd know what it feels like to be a projector. If I was with a reflector, they'd know what it feels like to be next to a manifester. I actually have a funny story about a
What?
reflector. um uh have you ever heard of Teal Swan?
Uh-uh.
She's this like YouTube guru. I met her like a decade ago when she first started, and she's a reflector, but I didn't know that. And when I had to spend a day with her, I had to drive her all around Manhattan because I was in New Jersey in a car. And she was so nice to me. Like, she met me with a cupcake, she gifted me one of her frequency paintings, she bought me lunch, and I was like, she's just so
That's
delightful.
sweet.
Well, a documentary came out about her like 3 years ago, and everyone's like, she's terrible, she's a horrible person. And then I found out she's a reflector, and I had this moment. I'm like, was she horrible, or was she reflecting the energy of the groups that she was with?
Oh
Because when she
wow.
was with me, we had a great time. It was like, I was like, oh, this lady's lovely. But then in the documentary, you found all these people being very, very, almost like combative with her. Now, I'm not saying that she's perfect or that she's not accountable for her things, because at the end of the day, whatever, right? Like, to each his own. But I found it very interesting that a reflector is going to kind of borrow the energy that you have when they're with you, and they reflect, like the name says, the energy around them. But their strategy is to wait 24 days. So, I mean, 28 days, a lunar cycle. For them to operate and be clear and navigate this world, they need to be okay to wait a full moon cycle to understand what they're going through, what they need to do, where they need to take action, where they need to make choices, which is so non the human world right now.
Right.
And so I think that's also why it's very rare to be one in this world, because they really have to be in tune with the nature cycle, not the human capitalistic patriarchal conditioning cycles.
Yeah, that makes me wonder how they actually know themselves though, if everyone they're around they reflect.
That is a beautiful question. Part of the recommendation. So remember, we were talking about like everyone has a strategy and authority. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's also like cues and recommendations. So a reflector would benefit for time with themselves and time to feel different lunar cycles. A manifester does well by just doing the thing. Like, they get to stop asking for permission. They're the only aura type that doesn't have to ask for permission, but many of us have been conditioned to ask for permission. Like, I'm Latina, Catholic, first generation, United States. Like, I've been conditioned
Mm-hmm.
to be like, be quiet, be nice. And I'm literally supposed to be like, I don't care what y'all have to say. I'm going to do what I got to do.
That's a practice.
Right.
Deconditioning is real.
Right. And then, like, for projectors, deconditioning and healing and stepping into your energy is not feeling like you have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And also not feeling like you need to do everything for everyone, right? Like, you get to be like, who is actually needing me? Who actually deserves my energy? Who should I actually be pouring into, instead of being like, well, I feel that and I feel that and I feel that. And you're not responsible for everyone's success. You're responsible for being in alignment with your energy to create the success you're here to create,
To
right?
feel my own success.
Well, and yes, so you want success no matter what, for your people, for your business, for you, but like, you can't you can't have everyone paying attention to. I want to bring it
I
back to like
agree.
celebrity culture.
I
I
agree.
I think about a lot about celebrity culture, right? Like I joke how like first of all I think about Mariah Carey is a projector.
Is
She
she?
is. And I love when they tell her, oh, the J-Lo controversy. And she'd be like, I don't know her, right? Because
Yeah.
she's like, I'm not inviting myself to this conversation. This is not an invitation I want to accept. She knows her energy to be like, that's not a lane that I don't need J-Lo to pay attention to me. And I'm not going to pay attention to her. That's not my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then Taylor Swift and Kanye are also both projectors. And how Taylor like she does not pay attention to the people who don't get her, but Kanye's constantly like trying to be affirmed instead of going, who is affirming you? And I know he's controversial and all these people are very controversial, but like we can see how their energy their alignment or misalignment shows up in how their career evolved,
Right.
right? Kanye has been so set on being heard by everyone instead of being like, who really deserves my attention?
Mm-hmm. That's Mariah.
That's Kanye.
No,
But
but
oh
Mariah
yeah,
is
oh
like, I
Mariah's
know
like,
who
yeah,
deserves my
Mariah's like, I
attention.
don't have time for that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know her. Like, let's move on. Next question. And so she's
And
aligned.
that's alignment.
And she's never, in my opinion, she's never not been successful.
Mm-hmm.
She's always been really great at what she did.
Yeah.
Because she stayed and being like, that's not where I'm going. Because here's another thing, just because you're a projector, you also get to heal that you don't have to take every invitation. Yes, you're not a generator.
I have to use my discernment
Yeah.
to understand where I should say yes and where I should say no.
Yeah.
And I come from a space of, I call myself a retired people pleaser
Yeah.
because conditioned to be polite, to be nice, to be available, to be reliable to everyone. We're that way. Let alone being a black woman, it's like you have to be nicer. So don't say no to everything. People are gonna think you're mean.
Don't even respond. You don't
Yeah,
even have to respond. If someone's trying to try to start something with you, you don't even need to respond. We've also been conditioned, I think, in certain communities that, well, you can't let them have the last word. Well, no, I don't care.
that's something
That's
I've been
theirs, not
learning.
mine.
Yeah, I've been learning how to put that into practice. Not everything deserves a response. That was one of the lessons I learned from last year, that my silence is sacred. And I think that says enough for itself.
Ooh, I just got chills.
Yeah, but as a person who's always felt like I have to defend my thoughts or defend myself or my actions, that's something that I really had to learn the hard way and over and over and over again. And I'll probably still slip up and need to learn that lesson again, find myself wanting to explain something or
Mm.
respond to something from someone, but I could shake it off. Not to quote Taylor Swift,
Oh
my
yeah.
projector.
No, true, true, true. But you know what's really interesting about what you said is like that you might slip up, and here's a really interesting part of human design. It was originally called the human design experiment, and this also goes back to the beginning what you said. Human design, astrology, none of this stuff should be prescriptive. I am not giving you a medical prescription that you can go fill at the pharmacy. I'm telling you, here's how you're designed. You're not going to do this perfectly. The point of this is not that you do it perfectly. The point
Right.
of it is that you have an operating system. I'm going to tell you how your operating system works, and when you got a little bug, you know how to fix it. It's not supposed to be running perfectly every day. Why do you think every single app, every single computer has updates and restarts
Mm-hmm.
and refreshes? Because nothing is designed to run perfectly all the time.
All the time.
Nothing.
Yeah.
But when in fact, we talked about this the last time we chatted, that we all have a reset button in human design. There's a lot of information, y'all. I can tell you very easily. We can talk about this for days. But if I were to give you like what's the highest level reset button, is that whenever you're in breakdown, you go back to your strategy and authority. So when you're pulling up your chart, you're going to see some language on the side. There's usually a block with like, oh, this is your strategy, this is your aura type, your strategy, your authority, blah blah blah. Your strategy and your authority is your reset button. What do I mean by that? Your projector. Your reset button is, okay, let's say you're in breakdown because like someone's not paying attention to you, or like something's not, like someone's not listening to the advice you give them. Reset button. Was
Invitation.
I invited? Did they
Mm.
ask me to help them with this? No. Okay, cool. I'm going to
It's
step
not my
away.
problem.
But like, but you could be like, oh, but I feel really urgent about it. What's your authority? Wait a day.
Mm.
Okay, okay, this isn't my invitation. I'm going to step back. I'm going to wait a day. Do I still feel urgent about this next day? You probably won't. But if you give yourself a day, you'll probably see that you weren't invited to that. For me, when I'm in breakdown, I have to be like, oh, why am I so angry about doing this work right now? Oh, because I actually didn't initiate this job. Like someone asked me to do this for them and I didn't want to do this. This wasn't my initiation. And I didn't tell them what I needed for this to work for me. So I get to initiate and inform. And I'll wait a day before I initiate someone to inform. Otherwise, I can sound really angry
Mm.
because that's the manifesto, not self theme. Generators. A lot of generators are frustrated in this world because they're saying yes to things that are a no.
Yeah.
So your strategy is, hey, wait for a response. Am I doing something because I felt like I needed to say yes to this? Basically, the response is learning what's a yes and what's a no. That's the highest level of it. So your reset button is this yes or this is a no?
And you'll feel it. You feel it in the body when you're not
Oh my
operating.
god,
We talk to
yes.
just put some words to like the breaking down. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
does it feel like in the body when you're breaking down? You feel tense, your body hurts, you're stressed out. So then we pause and think about what are the things that are creating that in our life, what areas. So
Yes.
now we know what to assess. Is this a yes or is this a no? Have I been invited or have I not been invited? I think, what do you think about being invited and not answering the invitation? I feel like that would also put me out of alignment as well.
Well, no, you're an emotional projector. You get to say, I need some time. You get to you the response could be as easy as like, I need time. I can't tell you right now, I need time. Because that's your emotional authority. Projectors are a little nuanced because they have a lot of so projectors could be emotional projectors, they could be splenic projectors, which means it's like an inner knowing out of nowhere. Like unless they get this like, oh my gosh, yes, like I don't know where this is coming from, but I feel like this is it's a very intuitive response or decision making. There's ego projectors that it's like they have confidence and they know what they want, so then they have to make choices based on what they know they want. There are self projected projectors, which is they have their sense of identity connected to their voice, but they don't have anything in their body. So they're like, okay, I need to get this out of my system somehow. So they need someone to talk to.
Uh-huh.
And as they're talking, they get clear on their decision. Um, those are so, and then there's mental projectors that they're all in their mind. Like it's the most difficult one, right? Because we're not supposed to make choices in our mind. And so they need a board of directors that they can hear themselves speak, they hear feedback, and as the combination happens, then they'll feel or they'll experience a sense of clarity from getting it out and hearing feedback. It's called also the sounding board because they need someone to sound it back to them, right?
There's so much to know about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But once you have that awareness, they always say when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
When you have that awareness, if you are operating as though you're a splenic projector, but you're a mental projector, then this is probably why you have difficulty making decisions. You're not referring to people around you
Right.
for insight on action.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so nuanced. And by the way, projectors are the only ones that have that many. Like
There was a lot.
generators can also only be emotional or sacral, or what we call a pure generator. Manifestors are either emotional, splenic, or ego. And then projectors have those six or seven. And then reflectors are only what we call lunar authority, which means they really have to go through all the moon phases or a few of the moon phases for them to feel the energy shift for them to be clear.
I think this is an amazing opportunity for us to talk about the class that we have
Oh,
coming up.
yes.
Because if I were a listener right now, I'd be like, dang, what am I?
Yes.
What am I? What am I? Am I doing it right? What does it look like? And so we have a class, Ilona and I have a class coming up called Design to Heal. And on May 31st, it's a virtual class. Ilona will be walking you through different aspects of your chart, of your human design chart. And then where I come in is from an aromatics perspective as a certified aromatherapist. We work through what scents we can cultivate, what scent profiles we can develop for you to get through blockages that are stopping you from experiencing your most aligned life
Mm-hmm.
according to your human design. So we're really excited about this
Yes.
workshop. And I think if you have those questions, it would be an excellent way for you to connect and resonate deeper with this practice and what human design really is.
Yeah.
So You have anything to add about that?
Well, we're the real fun, juicy part of that workshop that we're creating is that we're going to go into the lines of human design. So, what do I mean by that? If y'all are on the internet streets and you see human design content, it's very high level. It's always talking about like if you're a projector, do this. If you're a generator, do that. And it's basically on the auras. And the auras are great, but they're just one aspect. And remember, they tell us the reset button. But if you want to go deeper, like what am I supposed to be doing in this lifetime? What is the talent I'm here to develop? Is it that I don't do well in business, or should I be working at a corporation, or should I be working with a business partner? These are like details that you can find in the planetary activations. When we were talking about the design of the planets before, there are all the planets, 64 different gates, but each gate has one of 6 lines. And those 6 lines can tell me how should you be, what talent you should be developing, what kind of like work experience or collaboration experience works best for you, and what does prosperity look like? Not what you do to make money, but what is the relationship, the energetic relationship to money that works best for you? Like, for example, should you be a charitable prosperity? Do you do best when you make space for giving to those who have less than you? Or do you work best when you're having fun with money and you learn how to invest it and make money work for you?
Mm-hmm. That one.
That's Jasmine.
There's so many different things to learn about and understanding the lines, and we're going to be focusing specifically on the prosperity line and the talent line.
Yeah.
These are things to know about yourself, y'all. So if you are coming, if you want to come, I hope you come to our workshop. It'll be virtual on May 31st at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, do you want to talk about the lines?
I would love to talk
a
about the
little bit?
lines. Very high level, very high level.
Feel free to use me as an example
Oh,
because
yes.
there's so many things about my line.
Okay, so first of all, the lines show up everywhere. So when you're looking up at your human design, you'll probably see this thing that says a profile, and you'll see a number slash another number. And those numbers can now only ever be 1 to 6. There are only 12 combinations, though. So there are two, and the numbers will always be different. Like you could never have a 2 2 or a 3 3. And so you're a 2 4, if I'm not mistaken.
2-4.
So that means your sun and the sun of your birth, your soul, that when it came in, both, it's a 2 4. So your sun is a 2 line and your soul's sun is a 4 line. And so that's the hermit line and the opportunist line. And so this is how you operate. The 2 line is how you operate consciously, and the 4 line is how you operate unconsciously. So consciously, you're the hermit, which is you're the genius because you've spent time. So they call it the hermit. By the way, something we didn't talk about. I always joke. Human design was basically downloaded by a guy who was tripping balls in Ibiza and downloaded the system in 3 days. And so sometimes the language he used doesn't make sense to people. And so you'll see people reinterpreting the work, not because the work isn't good, but he used language that sometimes it's like, please elaborate, right? So it's not that you're a hermit. You're not supposed to be by yourself in a cave, right? I mean, you might have aspects of that, but the real point of the hermit is that you've cultivated an expertise in something. You're a person who has this natural genius that you don't see, but the world around you sees your genius. And so you're like, oh no, I just really love this. And people are like, but you're an expert, you're a genius, you're so good at this, right? And then the 4 line is how you unconsciously operate, which is the opportunist. Once again, sounds very terrible, but it's actually the influencer. It's like a person who has an influence over their inner circle. It's about having this like close inner circle of people, friends, audience that you have influence over. So when you have a 2-4, you're actually like a very influential genius to the people in the world around you, right? But the other thing that we discovered is that, like I said, there's so many planets, which means we have a lot of different lines. So your core operating system, you have this 2-4, but most of your lines are in the 1, which is the investigator. So while you're like, I'm kind of this genius for my community, but you're like, but in a lot of ways, I need to have information before I do any of it. Like I'm not
100%.
just going to go out there. I need to research. I need to understand. I need to get the articles. I need to read the book. I need to find the experts. I need to get all of the data, and then I'm going to take action.
That is me. To a T. I've always been really interested in knowing as much as I can before making decisions. But then I make decisions also very like rapidly. So
yes,
we've already established that's out of alignment. We need to slow it down, take that information and really sit with it before jumping to conclusions. And I feel like in many ways I've done that in my journey too, but to myself. So that when I do make certain decisions, it feels very rapid to other people, but that's because I kind of consciously deliberate on everything before I even voice it, put it out there, because I don't say much. So when I say things, listen to them because I feel like when I actually say it, that's like, man, now I got to do it, because that's
Mm.
now I'm expecting like the world to just hold me accountable.
Mm.
And so when I think like that, when I take my time and really put my energy towards making decisions over time, I feel like that's when I make my best decisions.
Yeah, because there's a lot of in your energy. So remember, we're designed in a certain way. A lot in your energy needs information. It's really predicated on the idea that you need information to feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you feel safe, you're like, boom, I'm in, I'm ready. This also gives you time for that emotional solar plexus to go through any emotions that you're going through before you make that choice.
So emotional solar plexus looks like, what does that look like?
That's your authority. So you have so by the way, when I'm talking about the emotional solar plexus, it's one of the 9 centers of the human design body graph. And that's what makes, if you have it in color, it's what makes you an emotional authority. So for example, I'm an emotional manifester, you're an emotional projector, because we have the solar plexus defined, which in human design is an emotional center. And it comes with a wave that we have to ride to feel clear about our choices. That's why we have to at least wait a day. Because when if you get opportunity and you're like, oh my God, that's so exciting, I love it, I'm just gonna say yes, you might crash the next day and be like, no, no, I can't do this now. I'm not
Buyer's remorse
right.
immediately.
I joke, like, I know I'm dating myself with this, but back in the day when the infomercials would be like, buy now and you'll also get these bonuses. And then you do it and then you get the bonuses and you get the thing. I'm like, I didn't need any of it because in the moment they were capturing your
Right.
excitement.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, marketing really got emotional people back in the day because they
Yeah.
got us all get one of those bonuses when we didn't need the primary product.
Yeah, they
and so when
know.
all of this, so like these things help us also decondition. So like talk about healing, it helps us decondition urgency,
Mm.
right? There's so much like false urgency in the world right now. And the only people who can act on immediate urgency are pure generators, right? Because they're just like, if I feel like it, it's a yes. And I trust that it's a yes, I can go. But if you're splenic, you have to really wait until you feel like that inner knowing. If you're emotional, you have to wait at least a day. If you're a self-projected projector, you need someone that you can hash this out with, right? Like you
Right.
can't just go out. And so deconditions any urgency, and even the lines help decondition urgency. Like I'm a 6-2 profile. So I have the 2 like you, but unconsciously. But I lead as a 6, which is a hermit line. It's the only one of the lines that life is divided into 3 parts: 0 to 30, 30 to 50, 50 and beyond. And so the whole idea is we didn't come here to peak when we were young. We came here to live life, like do all the things, go to all the places, eat all the foods, try all the stuff until 30. 30 to 50, we go, okay, let me make something my jam, like the thing I'm going to master and really figure out. And then at 50, they say we come off the roof and we're like, okay, guys, I lived life and I learned life and this is what I have for you. And that's like we feel fulfilled after 50. And when I
Oh.
learned that, that deconditioned my personal urgency to make it whatever that meant at a certain time, because I'm like, I got a few years. Well, at this point I'm 45, but I'm like, I got 5 years left to feel that. But I'm like, oh my God, almost 6 years ago when I learned about this, I was like feeling like time is now. I gotta rush.
Like you were
I gotta
behind.
go. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I felt so behind. But when I tell people with a 6 line, you're not behind, we heal the urgency to be
You
to
can
to
breathe.
rush into something,
Yeah.
to make something happen before the timing is right. And so our emotional authority, if you have an emotional authority but not a 6 line, you can heal this false urgency of needing to say yes or respond to everything, right? Like there's so many little layers that we can actually like learn from this and be like, yes, you might be in the moment, but I'm not. And we get to reconcile that because I don't need to misalign myself for your urgency.
That has to be so healing for you, to just let you exhale and breathe and say, it's not that serious. I still got 5 years. I can
Oh my
be, give
gosh.
myself a little grace. I
Oh my
haven't met my
gosh.
final form yet.
Yes.
But even when you turn 50, it doesn't stop.
No, it
No.
doesn't stop. But that, because that's when it's finally like you're in. You're like, okay, I'm here. Listen up, y'all. I got stuff for you, right?
Uh huh.
I was joking how Pedro Pascal, we don't know his birth time officially, but I did some variables based on his date that he was born. And I'm pretty sure he has a 6 line. I think he's a 3-6. And so, and we think about Pedro. Pedro has been on TV since Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but he did not make.
Really?
Yeah, he goes way back. He goes way back. But he didn't just make it, he just turned 50 this year, right? So, like, once again, even Papi Pascal, I call him Papi Pascal. Even Papi Pascal, he maybe he knew this, maybe he didn't, but he stayed the course, right? Because
Yeah.
he lived life from 30 to 50 while Sarah Paulson, his bestie, was becoming super famous. He was like, okay, I'm not going to give up. He did theater. He really mastered his craft of acting. He didn't give up. And now everyone sees him for his magic, and
Yeah.
he's just getting started.
Is he just getting
Like,
started?
in my opinion, right? Like, because now he's like in everything. He's in this movie. He's in that
Yeah.
movie. He's in The Last of Us. In
Game
The
of Thrones is
Mandalorian.
how I
Yeah.
was introduced to him, and
Oh
then
yeah.
I love The Last of Us.
Oh my
We've been watching
god.
it right now, but I didn't know him before
Oh yeah.
Game of Thrones.
He's been in so many things, and he never gave up because his
Yeah.
job was to master his craft of acting, obviously, and now he's being recognized for it at this stage, with where his sixth line should be recognized.
Having that awareness is life changing because you can be a six line and be 36 and thinking like all my friends are farther past me. Everybody is
Girl.
doing all of this, and I'm just still sitting here unsure of who I am, what I'm supposed to be doing, not even understanding that you still got 14 years left. You still got
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
but we don't give ourselves that time.
We don't. So, like, the systems that are in place want us to play their timelines, and we don't all work on the same timeline.
Yeah.
I actually learned about human design in 2018, right after my dad passed away. And I quit my job, moved in with my mom, went to grad school, and I had this moment. I'm like, I do not have savings. I do not have a retirement. What the heck am I doing? And then I learned this, and I'm like, oh, I'm in my mastering I'm in my mastery phase.
Yeah.
I'm figuring things out, and I literally released any pressure to perform, and I manifested stuff. Like, I've manifested two formal publishing. Like, I got paid to write twice. If
Yay.
you asked me 20 years ago, when I was 20, what I was going to do, I never had being a published author paid to write on my to-do list. And like, when I released that and I just let myself be my best self and do what I came here to do, the opportunity showed up.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, it's like, now, had I put that pressure, like, if I put the pressure on myself to, like, I have to get a book deal, I have to do this, it might not have happened. But I allowed myself just to be me,
Mm-hmm.
the best version of me. Really, human design teaches you what the best version of you can operate as, and you trust playing with that to see how it works.
And it takes letting go. I've been coming to this understanding as of recently too, having just transitioned out of our storefront and holding on to that for so long, even when it felt like it wasn't flowing anymore. You mentioned opportunity opening up.
Mm-hmm.
That's real.
I'm pulling on my phone to see your chart, because I was like, oh yeah, so funny, so funny. And this is probably, we probably need to do another podcast for, like, the
You're
centers, but,
definitely
like,
invited back.
like, there's so many ways to look at deconditioning in human design. Like, all of the lines will tell us stuff, our aura type will tell us stuff, the centers, if it's defined or not. You have what we call an undefined spleen, an open spleen, and the spleen is an
Hmm.
intuition center. So you can feel when someone else is off in their intuition or in their body, because it's like an intuitive body awareness.
The
But that,
empathic coordinator.
the empathic coordinator, but also the spleen. So you've got two things that really help you absorb.
Okay.
And then, every center has like a break, like, just like, we were saying, you get bitter or you're successful, the centers have that too. So when you're aligned, you feel your intuition. When you're not aligned, you don't let go of things.
Mm.
Leases, friendships, something in your closet that needed to be thrown away 10 years ago. And so it's learning to trust your intuition to let go of what needs to be let go of in the right time. So even that shows up, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're aligned, you go, I don't need this anymore. I can move on.
I've been operating in the we can make it work energy. We can figure it out. We'll get through it. We'll find a reason to keep that pair of pants we've been wearing that we've been holding on to for years. We'll find a reason to stay in this friendship, to stay in this building. And that's operating outside
Yep.
of alignment with self. And I
Yep.
found most recently with making the transition and deciding, all it took really was the decision to allow myself to let go
Yeah.
of something that I feel like was holding back areas of my life personally, but also areas of the business.
Yeah.
And doing that created so much opportunity. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to sit down and record this podcast
Yeah.
because I've been sitting with this for 2 years and never took any action on it because when did I have the time?
Even that could be an invitation, which we think about, like, I'm sure that if you hear I'm a projector, I have to wait for an invitation, you're probably waiting for someone literally
To say, come do
for you
this.
to be like here being like, I'm waiting for the invitation, who's calling me, where's everyone? But it could be that, right? Like you being in alignment with now your spleen and knowing that you can let go of something that creates an invitation energetically
Mhm.
for you to do something that's more aligned.
It's getting into the mindset of abundance also because I hold on out of
Mm,
scarcity.
mm,
Who am I without this? How will we be successful? How will we be successful without the thing that has been given us so much success? And
yes.
understanding where sacrifice comes in because where I think I also started feeling bitterness in some ways because I wasn't letting things go. I wasn't feeling successful. And that took a toll on my mental health, my spiritual health, my
Your
physical
energy,
health,
yeah.
everything. I just felt heavier until literally until I made the decision to let go, to loosen the grip, not even recognizing that doing so would open up the doors to all of these other opportunities. Now I'm being actually invited to things, to places by people who I didn't even realize were paying attention. People are like, "You've got time now. Let's do this." And I'm like, "I
Yes.
do. I do have time."
Yeah.
But I can't say yes to everything.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. You don't have to. We are not generators. We're not here to respond. And this doesn't mean that generators have to say a yes to everything, but they're truly the ones that are operating on, is this a yes, is this a no, is this a yes, this a no. For us, it's like, this is, if I don't have time for this, I don't have to, like, let them let I no longer feel bad about not responding to emails. Like, there are emails that
Mm.
have probably been sitting in my inbox for a year, and I feel there's a bit of like integrity where I'm like, oh, I should respond. But if it's not my urge, if it's not my initiation, it's, I get to trust that it's not right now. It's not for right now. I'm on a different timing. And I think ultimately that's why human design can heal. It really asks the question, who would you be and what would your life look like if you trusted your energy, and that your energy, the way you're designed, will lead you to exactly to who and what you're supposed to be.
Let go of the
Mm-hmm.
urgency.
In the false illusion of like a life. Like a lot of us are operating at a story. So this is more the coaching, right? A lot of us are operating on like, well, society wants me to do this, and my parents want me to do this, and my church will say that, or
Mm-hmm.
my community, blah blah blah. But it's like, then you're living their lives and
And
their
not your
desires,
own.
not yours. And how much more could open up if you actually followed your path? A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are limiting themselves because they're following someone else's path, not knowing that there's so much more they can reap, so much more that they can harvest through their own gifts and their own path.
And as projectors, you've mentioned before that we have a like we want to fix things. We want to be the solutions people, and so we'll oftentimes feel like will become the expectations that are placed on us. We allow people to dictate kind of who we are because we
Mm.
want to solve the problems. If
Mm.
this person is having an issue, I'll be this for that person. If these people are having this void, I'll be that to fill the void. And I
Right.
know for me personally, I've taken that on even in staying in business in the way that we were. Like the community has a void here. The community needs
Yes.
us to be in this space. Otherwise, I'm letting all these people down. I'm taking away this space for everyone else. And I realize that it didn't have to be either or.
Yeah.
Like I can still be present and honor myself and still honor the community. It would just have to change how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
And once I gave myself that permission to let go, that is where I found peace. That's where
Yeah.
I felt successful when I
Mm.
decided and acted on that decision.
Yeah. And I would say that that pressure to help everyone is more of like that empathic coordination where you're like, I know what I can do. I know I can help everyone, but it's also not your job to help everyone, which is the five line. And so when we went back, we've gone through the one, we've gone through the two, the four, and the six. So the five line is the problem solver. So there's probably a line in you there that was like, it's my job to solve that problem. And it's more about knowing if you're a five, if you have five anywhere in your chart, it's about knowing that you can solve the problem, but you don't have to solve everyone's problem.
Mm.
And then there's the martyr, the three line that's like, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. I'm just going to try things out and not worrying about it being right or wrong. And so a projector is going to feel this pressure because they feel what works, they feel what's not working. And it's almost like if you're not aligned because you don't know when enough's enough without that sacral, you won't know to be like, this is not mine to carry.
Mm-hmm. Seen, heard, and felt there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so with the lines,
Yes.
then we've covered one,
Yep.
two, three.
Not in order, but we've done them all.
We've gone over all of them.
I could do a quick recap.
Yeah, do a recap.
The one is the investigator. You need information in order to feel safe. The two is the hermit, which is basically you're this hidden genius. You don't see yourself as a genius, but everyone sees your expertise. The three line is the martyr, which is not about sacrificing yourself, but it's about being the one who's going to try. So some people call it trial and error, but it's really the experimenter. It's like, oh, this didn't work. What else? How else can we do this? Hey, this didn't happen the way I want to. What could we do differently next time, right? So it's the experimenter. The four line is the opportunist, which is literally about the inner circle, the influence in your inner circle. The five line is the heretic, which is not the heretic, but it's the solution finder. You can solve problems, but you don't have to solve everyone's problems. And the six line is the role model, which is you literally walk the walk. You don't talk your walk, right? But it's also life is divided into three phases, and you're here to give yourself time to really show what your genius is so people can follow in your footsteps.
Thank you for that recap. And we'll be covering those lines.
Those lines as it pertain to specific planets so that you can be in your talent, you can be in the right kind of cooperation profiles, and you can be in the right prosperity energy based on the lines that you have in your specific chart. Because not everyone's built the same.
Right.
Same talents don't have the same prosperities or the cooperation profiles. Everyone's nuanced. You're all designed very individually. We have some big like common themes like our big three or our aura types, but then if we dig underneath, there's really special information that we can understand about our special codings.
Mm-hmm. What else do you feel like needs to be shared about human design for the folks to get a better understanding? What haven't we covered?
We haven't really covered the centers, but there are 9 centers that mirror the Hindu Brahmin chakra system. The only thing is that the heart is divided into 2 centers, and the solar plexus is divided into 2 centers.
Oh.
And so the solar plexus is the solar plexus and the spleen. The heart is the G center and the ego. But they're all kind of similar themes. They just show up a little bit differently. Like, for example, the solar plexus is not about confidence. It's really more about this emotional range, like having emotions that help you understand your timing. The ego is not about being egotistical. It's about like having willpower. It's a little motor that when it pops in, you're able to carry forth what you want to do. And then the G center is about identity, right? It's about like knowing who you are. The throat center, it is about your expression, but it's also the portal to manifestation if you have a motor connected to it. So in human design, manifestation happens through the throat center. The ajna is about understanding, just like in the chakra system. The crown is about inspiration. The sacral is not. It's not necessarily about the sexuality and the fertility, and like we have in the traditional system. It's about this consistent access to energy. It's like, are you doing what lights you up, and are you using the energy to follow your joy and your bliss, right? And then the spleen, which we don't have in this,
right.
this is all about intuition, but also immunity, like our health, our wellness. And then, so like if you have it, for example, like I have it, so that means I know what works for me, what's healthy for me or not. But you don't have it, so you can actually tell when someone's off, but you're here to learn what is healthy for you and not. You might not be designed with like, okay, yeah, this isn't working for me. I don't feel good with that, right? And then the root is about like the stress we put on ourselves, like, so, but it's also drive and ambition. So it's like, okay, are you abiding by your own timelines? Or are you being really influenced by other people's like stress and pressure and timelines? And so there's all these like little nuances. I would say if I were to give someone a manual of how should you approach human design, if you wanted one, I would say start with your strategy and authority, really understand that. Then I would recommend going into the centers, because the centers then show you what's always operating for you and where you're receiving. Because open centers, which there's a white block, that means you're receiving that energy from other people, like you with the intuition. And if it's defined, that means that's what you're bringing to the table. That's where people can't influence you as much. Then I would learn about the channels, which are what connect to centers, and the gates, which are, I call them like computer data packs, like they're little codes that you're built with that you can use as you need. And then and that's where I would start, because then we can
There's
go
so
into,
much.
so like we can go into the planets, we can go into the lines, we can go into the profiles. Y'all, it gets to the point where we can say, what does your digestion look like? What is the best environments for you? What are your motivations? There's so much information that human design can give an individual. But I think there's, as someone who, I actually spoke a lot of languages, I learned languages in college. I feel like
Oh,
sometimes you can't get to, in Spanish we have this conjugation like pluscuamperfecto. It's like a type of conjugation. You don't start with pluscuamperfecto, you start with yo soy, tú eres,
see.
and so when you learn the basic building blocks, I think it'll make it easier for you to then understand all the advanced stuff, because all the advanced stuff is based on also knowing all the basics, like the lines and your design and your aura type and all that stuff.
Yeah. So human design has helped me feel I have a better understanding when it comes to my voice and being able
Mm.
to share things from a space of giving myself more grace and understanding that like my voice motor, if you will, is not. Explain it, Ilona.
Right, right. This is based on a conversation we had. So we had this conversation where it's like, sometimes you'll see people on the internet and they're like literally like crying on camera, and we're like, oh, I don't feel that pressure. Like, I don't feel the need to like always be speaking my feelings. And you have the feeling center and you have the throat center defined, but they're not connected to each other. So you don't necessarily need to push yourself to be the girly who's on camera crying to your audience that this is what I'm feeling right now, because those two pieces aren't connected to each other to make that happen. You do have a voice, it's connected to your ajna, which is understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So you tend to express awareness. You also have it attached to what we call the G center, which is knowing who you are, your sense of identity. So you speak from your sense of understanding yourself, but it is not connected to your emotions. So there, like, you actually need time for your emotions to get to a point of clarity for you to have the awareness to then speak.
When I tell y'all that that was so affirming to learn about myself, because I look at like, especially in like the spiritual community and everything, everyone is like vulnerability. I feel like they kind of weaponize vulnerability sometimes.
Yes.
And so I've always been the type that's like, if you ask me, I'll say it. If you invite me, I
Right.
suppose I'll say how I'm
And you feel
feeling,
safe. If
and
you're invited and you feel safe.
I feel safe, then I'll share those emotions with you. But I recognize that, like, since and now having the understanding that my voice is not connected to my emotions, I'll oftentimes be asked, "How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel?" Because it's not showing up like on my face, and I feel like I've been conditioned over my life to pretend or put on what emotions are supposed to look like, because I've never known how to actually voice happiness. But I've been elated, like I am so happy. I'm so happy. But then there's the like tell your face kind of
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like your face is not giving happy. I'm like,
Yeah.
but joy is here.
Yeah, yeah.
Joy is in here.
Yeah.
But I don't want to perform. And I feel like part of this experience of being on this podcast,
Oh,
starting this
yeah.
podcast and really using my voice, is because I've gotten so affirmed throughout this transition. Also, it's kind of felt like an invitation
Yeah.
to share what I've been experiencing on a podcast. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I've been sitting on this for about 2 years,
Yeah.
and it didn't ever really feel like the right time
Yeah.
to voice what I'm saying. And I also have the thought that like these are not unique thoughts. Like these are just the thoughts that everyone has. Are they not? But until I started actually sharing what I've been experiencing and feeling, I didn't realize how almost revolutionary people treated what I was doing. Like
That's
me just being open and me just sharing
that's your
what
genius.
what
That's your
I'm
true
truly
line,
feeling
right?
is like a revolutionary act to people.
Yeah.
And that felt like an invitation to say more.
And I have to also share something else. Like, I think that when we look at like the yoga girly chakra, which is what I call it, the yoga girly chakra, it's like your throat is closed. You need to like learn how to use it, right? But yes, and in human design, when you have a throat that center that's defined, you have it defined, which means when you speak, you have something to say, but you don't have the pressure to speak.
Right.
Whereas someone who's always on, like always talking and always sharing and always pushing their way through, they probably actually have an open throat center, meaning because it's open, they feel like this pressure, like I gotta say something, I gotta fill in the blank, I'm not comfortable with the silence. So this even speaks to that, like, right, like sometimes we think, oh, because you have a throat chakra, you have something to say. Yes, but you don't have the pressure to speak when it's not necessary.
Right.
Right. And so right now you're being called to use your voice, but it doesn't mean that you need to be using your voice all the time. You have a regulation, kind of like the sacrals, right? The sacrals are like, okay, I'm complete, this is no longer a yes. When you have a throat, okay, I'm complete, I don't have anything else to say. I used to be so frustrated when I had a 9 to 5 job and I had to be in meetings, like in like team leadership meetings. I hated it because I'm like, nothing is happening here. I have nothing extra to contribute, and I'm not going to speak just to be heard. And when I learned about this, and I'm like, oh, I always felt like I must have been wrong or dumb or not a good leader because I wasn't constantly trying to contribute. And I'm just like, no, I literally have nothing to say. I'm not wasting people's time in these meetings. Right?
I resonate with that so deeply. I
Right?
will sit in class because I'm in school
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I'll sit in class and everyone just be talking, and I'm just amazed that so many people have so many things to say about everything all the time, and I'm sitting there like, and I'll even ask myself like, you ain't got nothing to contribute, and I'm like, I don't think so.
You don't have the pressure.
And I used to think that that was like self doubt, but again, human design has given me a better understanding of where that comes from. I don't have to speak just to fill a silence.
Nope.
I'm comfortable in silence. I am very cool
Very.
here. I don't need to fill that void
Yep.
with my voice.
I have things to say, and sometimes when I get excited, I'll talk about it, but I don't need to fill the silence.
Yeah.
I don't
I,
have that pressure.
I feel like as an entrepreneur, especially someone in small business space, having a team of only so many people, you find yourself wearing all the hats that do not fit, that are not in alignment, but you put them on anyway because someone has to do it. So I feel like I've worn the content creator, marketer, like all of the hats for all of the things that's contributed to my burnout, that I feel like I have like entrepreneur trauma that I'm having to heal from, because I've been constantly using my voice in ways that I haven't necessarily felt aligned with, but you have to because you're running a business. You have to be seen and heard and remembered because that's how you get people in. And and I would rather, and I think there's more power in learning more about my prosperity lines too. I would rather attract the abundance that is meant for me in ways that feel aligned for me, instead of just constantly putting on all the time because we have to, just because we're entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And that's why I really focus on what is your talent, how should you, what bucket should you put that in, and what does your prosperity look like? Because I, through learning the Genius Report, which was human design for business, I had this aha moment. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't suck. I'm just not aligned. And I've seen so many people, like, I have a friend who's also a projector. And when I started learning this, we went into her charts because she has been trying to be a solopreneur for quite some time now, and it just didn't move the way we wanted it to move. And when we looked at her cooperation profile, which is, so she was using her talent, like, sharing messages, but she wasn't made to be a solopreneur. She needed to be working in a different dynamic with networks and with large organizations to get her message out there. And the moment we're like, hey, you can't just be doing this by yourself. Now, some people are. Some people can do everything by themselves in a cave, be left alone to their own devices and make it happen. But this was not a person that worked for. And it showed in the results of her business, not because she's not good. It's just she wasn't designed to do it by herself. How many people would have completely transformed business experiences because they learned that they just had to get a business partner who does the parts that they don't want to do? And then we stop beating ourselves up for being bad entrepreneurs when we were just not aligned entrepreneurs.
And we're not going to be great at every aspect of running a business.
No.
And that is where we have to give
ourselves.
ourselves. No, I know.
I feel that in my bones.
I know. This is what we see this often in CEO support group too. All these things come up, and it's because as small business owners, a lot of us are the only ones on the team, and so we're thinking we have to do it all. But it requires a little bit more creativity, getting outside of the box. If you don't have the resources to hire a team right now, you put some of your resources towards networking, towards growing and going out and meeting with people and seeing what collaborations could happen. Yeah. That's transformative.
100%.
But you have to know that about yourself.
You have to have the information.
You have to have that information and know where that falls.
Yeah.
And so mine says that I work better in smaller teams of people,
Communities, yeah.
in communities,
In groups that feel like family, yeah.
Yeah. And that's true. I feel like
Your business
I've
does?
operated Queendom Cultivation this entire time as a family operated business, and that is where I feel like I've thrived. And when they've been able to step in and support in particular ways, that's always been super helpful.
Yeah.
And so seeing that affirmed through my human design chart,
Yeah,
meant a lot.
yeah, it's powerful, it's transformative, it's affirming, it's validating. And ultimately, for me, when you understand your human design, you learn how to align to your energy so that you can manifest the life you want and trust the choices you make along the way in that experiment.
I think that's enough reason to learn it.
Join us at the workshop May 31st.
Designed to Heal, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
You don't want to miss it.
So where can they go? Let's say they want to join us for the workshop. Where do they go to get the information about themselves, and what do they need to bring?
Okay, great. So if you go to yourauraatwork.com, you scroll down a little bit from the hero image, and you should see information to plug in your birth data, and you will see first a body graph as a download that you can have, which is the human design chart. And there's also a freebie, which is like a one sheeter, which kind of goes into like high level,
cool.
like what is your aura type, what is your authority, all this stuff, so you can begin to have some kind of notion. So we're also on Instagram, Your Aura at Work. And if you want to connect with me about that, you can go to ilonapamplona.com or at Ilona Pamplona on Instagram. Instagram is my main platform. I'm not a huge fan of Meta, but that's where my people are, so I gotta meet them where they are.
And as a workshop participant, you're going to have the chart that you're filling out, and then you also have like a questionnaire for them to answer.
You know what? Yes, there's a spreadsheet where I get your information, so I make sure I have your chart before you get on the call.
Yep. And that'll help inform us in creating like the scent profile that's going to help you break through your blockages. So make sure you're honest, because you don't have to be perfect for healing. You just have to be honest. And that's what I'm learning, using my voice to share and be honest, as uncomfortable as it is. Ilona, thank you so much for joining today. I feel like we could go on and on and on. So I definitely know you have to come back.
I'm ready.
This is your open invitation.
Let
your
me know
invitation. Okay. Because there's so much more to cover that we haven't even touched on.
Yeah, this is literally the tip of the iceberg.
Oh my God, so much.
Yeah.
There was so much that we already covered.
Yeah.
But I just thank you so much for joining us. If you want to know more about the work that Ilona does, please follow her on Instagram, Your Aura at Work, and also Ilona Pamplona on Instagram. You've only just met the tip of the iceberg with her too. So please follow her, stay connected. And until next time, thank you for watching Healing in Progress. Peace.
We did it.